Hey, for those that will stop by and listen, how are we doing today? How are we holding up, should I ask? And so it's been a tough time. It's been some tough energy being dealt right now. But I believe that it's all good when it's all said and done, no matter how difficult the transition is. It always works out for the best, right? And so hold on. Hold on. As I'm saying that, even to myself, hold on. I was having a discussion with my son a couple of moments ago, and we were talking about waiting for the right time for things. And the importance of being able to wait, right? So that you don't end up in situations where you're not supposed to be, first of all. And so that you do end up getting what you're worth, right? Sometimes we rush into things, and because we rush into things and we're in such a rush to get it, we're willing to take many times less than what we're worthy of. And because of that, we rush in and we're quick to accept, not realizing if we would have just waited a little bit longer, or if we would have been a little bit more patient, right? Something much, much better than anything that you could have ever dreamed of was right around the corner, on the way to you. And so I was talking with my son about that, and how I don't feel like it's a mistake when we are sitting and we're waiting. And yes, we're tired of waiting, right? We're tired of, hearing that it's on the way, that it's coming, right? Nevertheless, right? There is something that is still needing to happen, right? Or else whatever that is that we're waiting for, it would be here. There's still something that's coming in and being positioned. There's still some things that may need to be worked out in us before that thing can be brought in. Because if it's brought in and it's not time, if we're not ready, we won't be able to handle it. Or we may not even recognize the value of what we have, and we might end up losing it. And so I was explaining to my son the importance of being patient and understanding divine timing, right? Divine timing. That means that there is an appointed time for what it is that we have been praying and asking for, and being able to trust that when the right time comes, that it will be aligned and brought into our lives. Not feeling that we have to go out and run and chase, but whatever that is, it will be brought in at the right time. But while we're waiting, right? It behooves us to continue working on ourselves and continue to allow Spirit to work things out of us, or work things into us. One of the things that I was talking to him about is not rushing into relationships. And I think it's very appropriate. I've taught my kids from a very young age the value of not only their bodies, but also like the need to be respected and to respect others. And the fact that everyone else is moving forward in relationships does not negate the value of you waiting until the right one comes, and not feeling bad about that. I feel like I had my kids at about 27, and I think I even was still too young. I think I could have waited. I could have waited even longer than that to have them. What happened? But you know, things happen, and we make do of what happens, you know. But had I waited, and had I been more patient and even more selective, you know, things may have turned out different. But I don't, you know, I don't regret anything, you know. I feel like everything happened in a way to bring me to where I am right now. And I have gained a lot of valuable lessons and information and wisdom with the experiences that I've had. And as I've shared with other videos, like you guys probably already know that I was in a rush, you know, when I was younger to have kids, not understanding what I was asking and the responsibility that came along with that. But I had an opportunity to share those experiences with my kids and, you know, tell them about things that I would have done differently or things that I want them to be able to discern and experience through the wisdom that I have, you know, received in life. And so I was explaining to him how it used to be where the young ladies had to be really selective with, you know, we always are on the young ladies about being selective with who they choose to engage with. But it's, you know, we live in a day and time now where we have to be careful no matter whether you're the male or the female. Everybody needs to be selective and careful. Because when it comes to the men, you know, it's about being protective of your universe, right? Men hold within them the universe, you know, the little seeds that they have, the many little seeds, those are all little universes, you know. And I was explaining that to my son, how it's necessary that you be protective and selective with who it is that you give your universe to, you know, because whoever that is will in essence have, you know, such a great impact on what becomes of your seed. And it's something that will actually, in fact, create your universe and the universe that will come forward and will continue forward, right? Just like the women holds, you know, we are considered to have these not doors, what do I want to say, our wombs are considered to be portals, right? And we are able to bring life into the world. We're able to create life, however that happens, right? We don't do it all by ourselves, but the man plants the seed of the universe and the woman brings it to fruition. And so that's a very huge responsibility. And I was explaining that to my son, how we ought not take that lightly, right? Whether you're the woman or the man. It used to be back in the day where the man could, you know, impregnate a woman, and if he chose not to be a part of the woman's life, he can just go on about his business. Well, it's not that way anymore, right? You can go about your business, but you will be responsible for those children, for that child that you gave birth to, right? Um, and we know how serious they are, about making sure that the men are being held responsible now. And so it's no longer the way it was back in the day, where you used to be able to, drop a baby and then just go on about your business if you were the man. Whether you're there or not, like, you're being made to be held responsible. And so it behooves you, I was explaining to him, to make sure that you are selective with who you give your universe to. Universes, right? Who you plant your seed into is so very important. And it's just as important as, for the women to be selective as well, for the same exact reasons. Like, it's not just about having the pleasurable moment and then going on about your business. Sometimes you end up realizing this was a huge mistake, right? This should have never happened. And yet here you are, you have attached yourself to this person for the rest of your life. Like, a child means that you will be dealing with this person for the rest of your life in some type of way, even if it's just spiritually, right? And so I was having a discussion with my son, which was so in line, even with what I'm feeling right now, with the changes that are taking place. I feel like we're always growing, and part of that growth is sometimes very uncomfortable. And the waiting part of that growth is uncomfortable. And so being where I am right now, I consider it a privilege to even be able to have discussions like this with my son, but it was just a reminder of what I'm going through right now. Like, I'm in a space right now where I don't necessarily want to be around nobody. Is it just me? It might just be me just tripping. And I've had a lot of these moments over the past 5 years, maybe even longer than that, where I just feel like if I could go and climb a mountain, and if I could enjoy life on that mountain, I think I would be okay. That doesn't mean that I don't love my children. That doesn't mean that I don't love my relatives, my loved ones. Sometimes I get in these headspaces where you want things to be purposeful, and when they're not, it's almost like, why deal with them? Like, you don't really have a lot of patience for foolishness or just stuff that have no purpose anymore, right? Am I the only one that feels that way? Am I the only one that feels that way? But I'm in that energy right now. Where I don't really, you just don't want to be bothered. Like, you want to enjoy life, and you want to, be happy, but it's almost like you want to do it in the way that you want to do it, not necessarily. And if there's anybody that's going to be involved with that happiness, you want them to do it the way that you wanted to do it, that you want it done, right? And so I get in these moods sometimes. I really do. And I'm in this mood right now. And it's okay. Because nobody's perfect. You know, I'm not claiming to be perfect. But what I will say is that it's hard. I'll say that. It's hard. You know, I won't pretend to be okay when I'm not. And right now, I do find pleasure in simple things like just like sitting and watching nature. I find pleasure in things like driving down the highway and listening, you know, to music or listening to messages. I find pleasure in being able to do things and create things. But talking about waiting, you know, as we're waiting on things to come to fruition or align for us, or finding that next piece of information to move forward, you know, sometimes can be frustrating, if I could say that. Frustrating. And for someone who always wants to know, we always want to be in the know. Like, I have to have all the details, knowing when, where, who, how, why, right? What, you know, I'd like to have all the details. And that has a lot to do with how I was raised too, you know, needing a level of certainty helps me not to be anxious. And so when that doesn't happen, you know, I can handle it for a little bit, but like as it continues on, like sooner or later, listen, things gonna get a little antsy and I'm gonna need some answers. And so I think that's the part of me that is being transformed right now. That's the part of me that is possibly willowing away as well. There's a part of me that doesn't feel, over the last few days, I have not felt myself. Now that I think about it, it makes sense. I haven't really felt myself. And I found myself doing things to try to come back into myself. But now that I understand, now that I'm realizing, maybe I'm not supposed to come back into myself. Maybe I am supposed to be transforming. Maybe I am supposed to be allowing things to be released. And it's okay to grieve them. Like, we don't always have to be okay all the time. It's okay to grieve the loss of who we used to be. And I guess that's what I'm feeling. And it feels really uncomfortable, right? Especially as a woman who has always had to be strong. You know, I was raised by a strong woman who was raised by a strong woman who was raised by a strong woman, right? Don't tell me nothing about a strong Black woman. I don't want to hear it. I really don't. You know, we've been strong, we've been, you know, honored as the strong woman, and yet, there is still the expectation of being strong, right? When do we get to be soft? And when is that okay? When is that okay? When do we get to be soft, right? After 3 generations of being the strong Black woman, I'm over it. Honestly, I'm over it. And so as I go through this transition, I'm really attuning to myself and really giving to myself. And I am over these past few weekends, like for the 4th weekend straight, I've been going out and traveling and just catering to me, you know. And so I am aware of the needs that I have to attend to myself and to really love on myself and to cater to myself and to stroke, you know, my own needs, even with the simplest little things. Yes. No longer am I willing to accept less than I'm worth. And rightfully so, I feel like it's been earned. It's been earned. You know, we are women who not only raise our own kids, but we raise other people's kids too, you know. And some of us had to raise ourselves if we really want to get serious. And so there comes a time in life where you recognize that you are worthy, right? You're worthy. I'm worthy of all that I can give myself. And I'm worthy of not settling for less than, right? No matter how that comes to me, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to, you know, whatever I do for myself, to take care of myself, to make money, you know, if I want to run my own business, I'm worthy of doing that for myself. And it's a matter of finding out like what it is that I want, what will make me happy. At the same time, what's going to bring in that level of fulfillment and also allow me to take care of myself, you know. Yeah. And when it comes to, you know, relationships, it's the same thing. It's about me. Like what is it that's going to fulfill me? Right? Because if it's not going to bring in a level of fulfillment, I might as well stay single. Honestly, I might as well stay single. But I believe that, you know, whatever that is, whoever that is definitely on the way. Only because I have connections like that and I trust my connections like that. And so even when it comes to business, like I feel like I'm at the point in my life where I'm able to bring those things in for me. It's a matter of knowing what I want and what I'm willing to accept, right? And so I was trying to explain that to my son about his worth and how the fact that he may or may not, you know, be in a relationship right now. Maybe that is a desire of his heart, but it's worth waiting for. Maybe now is not actually the right time to bring someone, you know, in beside you. Maybe there's still some healing, still some growth that needs to be done, you know, helping him to understand while also ministering to myself, apparently, about divine timing and making space for yourself to make sure that you're able and positioned to receive the highest form of what it is that you're worth, right? We were also talking about jobs and, you know, different vehicles that we desire, you know, to possibly drive at one point, and understanding the value of what it is that you're worth and what you're able to bring in for yourself. If you're, number one, willing to position yourself to receive it. Two, understanding what it is that you want. And then three, being able to pull that in for yourself and not taking anything less because you are impatient. Because you're impatient. Impatience has gotten us in trouble, hasn't it? It has. And of course, if we had foresight, you know, at that particular time in life, maybe things would have been different. But because we didn't, or because we didn't have anyone in our lives to speak the wisdom that was needed in those situations, we had to learn the hard way, right? I had to learn the hard way. I spent the last 30 years learning, the hard way about my worth and about the value of what it is that I bring to the table and what I have to offer, right? And so, but I've learned it, and it's okay. Even though I had to go around the mountain several times, I think I've learned it now. I've learned it, and I'm okay with waiting because I've worked for it. And not only have I learned it, I've implemented those lessons into my life. And I know what to do with it now, right? It wouldn't be a lost cause to bring those things that I desire into my life because I know how to handle it. And so, nevertheless, I'm not saying all of this to say that the waiting is easy, because it's not. It's not easy. But it will be worth it, is what I do understand. It'll be worth it. And I won't be sorry for waiting and not trying to create shortcuts for something where there is no shortcuts. And so it's just moments like this where I'm able to have these conversations with my kids that it's invaluable. I mean, it's not invaluable, but it is something that I can't even describe. It's more than valuable, right? It's indescribable is what it is. And for the fact that I never really got to have like these types of conversations, not with my mom or my dad, like we just didn't have that kind of connection. But to be able to give my kids that, what I never had, is something that I love and I cherish, and I don't take it lightly. And so I pours my heart out to my kids. It's probably a lot of stuff they don't want to hear, but because I know it's valuable and I know they're going to need it at some point in life, I don't spare the information, and I don't spare them the embarrassment, of hearing some of the mistakes that I've made. But I'm very honest with them and forthcoming and open. And so, because I don't believe that I went through those things only for them to have to go through them, I feel like I went through them so that they won't have to. You heard that saying, like every generation, gets to stand a little bit taller. And hopefully, if we've done a good job, we'll be able to allow our kids to stand on our shoulders to go taller, and then to keep lifting up the generations as we go forward. And so in that way, I've gone through things so that they don't have to. Doesn't mean that they should have it easy. They still have to work and they still have to figure it out, but they don't have to struggle and fall into the traps that I fell into. They don't have to, right? Now, whether or not they fall into those traps will be up to them, but they don't have to, because I went through it and I told them and I shared that with them and I shed a light on that path for them so that they can see clearly. Now, if they choose to still go down that path, that's completely up to them. I can't live life for them. They have to make that choice themselves. But I've definitely gone through for them already. And so, but I feel like we're in a very interesting time where things have shifted, and it's kind of getting, with this shift and this change, it's almost like I've been feeling like I'm trying to get acclimated. So right now I'm making some macrame, right? It's like a wall hanging. And so I love arts, right? In case you guys don't know, I'm always doing something. And so it's going to be like a little wall hanging. I kind of want to make it into kind of like it almost feels like a dream catcher to me, but this is what it's going to look like. Can you guys see that? I got it down the street. I find little simple things to do, like arts and crafts. And so, but I thought while I was working on this macrame, I would turn on my little phone and talk about some of this heaviness that I'm feeling with this change that's happening. And I guess I feel a sense of being someone who's always been in control, right? Or illusion of control. As I was saying, you know, I grew up in a situation where things were always out of control. And so when I got to a point where I was able to kind of manage my own life, being in control for me felt good because it eliminated that level of anxiety that I felt often growing up. And so, but of course, sometimes that can be unhealthy, right? Because when we're talking about living life and growing and exploring and being able to flow and being able to allow, you know, things to happen as they're supposed to, not as it's planned, you know, it's almost like having that balance between flow and management, right? It's doing what you can and leaving the rest up to the universe or up to God to do. It's going as far as your limits will take you and then turning the rest over to your creator so that they can do what they do, because we know that they are limitless, right? And so, and when I'm talking about creator, I'm talking about spirit, the universe, I'm talking about ancestors, I'm talking about the source, right? However you see your source, you know, however you see it, we all see source in a different way. However you see God, right? I'm talking about the universe. I'm talking about our spirit guides. I'm talking about our angels, any force around us that play a part in our development, in our protection, in our livelihood, in the scheme of things as we are concerned in this lifetime, right? That's what I'm talking about. There's a level of balance between doing what you've been given to do and then leaving the rest up to spirit, right? Because our wisdom can only take us so far. I don't care how much you think you know. Our wisdom only takes us so far, right? But there is that unknown part, right, that keeps us understanding our fragility as humans, right? Our need for something more, for a higher power to intervene on our behalf, right? Otherwise, why would we need anything more than what we are? Right? But it's keeping the balance of us, you know, realizing that there is a higher power at play. There is a higher power that, in spite of everything that we are doing, right, is actually has the grand scheme of things that cops everything that we've planned for ourselves. And it may in fact be much better, much greater, much more beautiful, much more awesome than anything that we could ever dream. And it's being open to that. It's been open to that. Because I'm going to be honest, being the person who is a controller, like I have my thoughts on how things should go and when they should happen and how they should happen and who they should happen with, right? And where they should happen. But the truth of the matter is there is a plan that has been set in place before I even came into this world for me, right? And along with my ability to co-create with the universe, it's also being open to understand that divine plan, right? In addition to what I want, right? And when we're really, I believe that when we're really aligned, it aligns with what has been set in place, right? Our giftings, our heart's desire, our visions, our goals and our dreams, right? I feel like they've been given to us. It's not something that we just randomly came up with, but I feel like they're divine. They've been divinely planted within us. I don't feel like there's any mistake that, I'm someone who's always been musically inclined. Like, I don't know at what age I realized that, but I've always been able to just flow with whatever music came out. Like, it's been a natural gift for me. Yes, I took classes, but I really didn't need to. The classes helped me to understand the theology, or the theory is the word, not the theology. The classes helped me to understand the theory of music, right? It was a lot like learning math, which has been always a struggle for me. Like, I don't want no theory, just play the music. But it's necessary if you want a rounded understanding of music and why they sound a certain way, and, where they belong, and, fundamentally, if you want an understanding of why the sound sounds the way it does, there's the need to actually understand theory. It's always been a struggle for me. I've never had to have theory to do music, right? Because it has been natural. And as I was saying, I feel like we all have been given these gifts that we don't really necessarily need any training on. Like, we came into this life with them. It's just a matter of remembering what it is that we knew before we came into this life, or that we were given it when we came through the portal, And I use music as an example, but that's one of the gifts. But when we talk about higher giftings, we're talking about, the ability to connect, with people mentally, or the ability to see, right? Or the ability to hear, or the ability to feel, right? And we're talking about our higher senses, right? We come in with 5, or many people would say 6 basic senses: touch, feel, smell, taste, hear, just basic senses. Well, there's senses above those that help us to tap into our higher senses and connect with the unseen, right? And we all have them, right? Some come in with the ability to just operate in them without having to really have any kind of training, while others may need additional training, right? So in that way, like, music for me I've never needed any training. It just came natural for me. Like, I could just be on point with the notes and the sound, it just resonated for me internally. There's that connection. And for others, they may have other giftings. It could be 3D giftings, it could be 5D giftings, right? And there may even be higher giftings that we're able to operate in above those, and so, but I feel we've all been given specific abilities, right, that align with our purpose in this lifetime. Yeah. We've all been given things. And so, though there may be this higher scheme, the higher grand scheme of things for our lives, it's understanding that our giftings align with that. So there may be a little work that needs to be done in understanding ourselves a little more so that we can connect the two. But when it's all said and done, it aligns. And it is, I feel like many times it's because of the misfortunes that happen in life that knock us off course. I won't go into detail, but as you know, not everybody is born with a silver spoon in their mouths. Sometimes it's hard. Parenting is not easy, because it causes you to not only have to be responsible for yourself, now you're responsible for somebody else. And for those that were never able to be truly responsible for themselves, how are you going to be responsible for somebody else? And where does that leave that somebody else that's dependent upon you to be responsible for them, and you haven't even learned to be responsible for yourself? And so in the midst of that chaos, a lot of things happen that aren't supposed to happen. And whereas it's supposed to be two mature beings that are actually tapped in and aligned with their giftings and able to bring someone else along and align them with their giftings, right? So that we all can grow in accordance to the highest calling on our lives. But because it started off all wrong, some of us never get to really align, maybe until later in life, or maybe never, because there's so many other things that's come in and that keep us preoccupied, so that we're never able to connect, which is sad. It's very sad, but it does happen. And so, nevertheless, I feel like every last one of us have a higher calling on our lives, whatever that is. And whatever that is something that not just benefits you, but it's for the overall good. It's for the overall good. And it's about finding out what that is. What is that? And why do I have these giftings? What am I supposed to do with them? And how do they actually benefit the overall good? How do I use them to be helpful, And so, but it's a process. All of this is a process. And, even as we become, aware of our giftings and our higher callings, it's still a process. We're still waiting. We're still taking it step by step, because you don't go from A to Z in one day. No, you're aware, that's A, and then it's kind of like step by step, line by line, precept by precept. There's a process, and there's so many things that come along with that. When I first became awakened to this other awareness that I had, it was like definitely a whole new world, because first of all, it was like, okay, so I'm not crazy, first of all. And then secondly, it's okay, so now what? Now I know that I'm not crazy. Now what? And then when you find out a little bit more, it's like, okay, I understand that. Okay, now what do I do with it? And where do I go, to utilize that? And then, how do I cross over from where I am in the 3D, even though I have learned to operate and exist in this other space, in this other realm? Like, how do I pull myself, or am I supposed to even pull myself all the way over here and then operate in the 3D from over here? Right? Or am I supposed to stay in the 3D and operate over here? And so there's so many different aspects of, even after you find out, that there is something more that you've been called to. Even after that, there is the aligning with it and allowing it to unfold. And going back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this video, the waiting part. It's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. And it's not from, A to Z in a week. And now you're just fully aware and you're operating at the highest capacity. No. There's so much going on. I can't even say, it's so much going on so many different levels. The transformation is spiritual, it's physical in many ways, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's energetically, like there's so many different aspects of our being, and so, and then on top of all of these changes, it's the need to stay balanced and grounded. As I'm going through, like what I'm going through now, I feel the need to really be grounded and balanced as these changes are coming through, so you don't fly off the rocker. And so change is challenging. It's challenging, but it's necessary, and patience is also a virtue, right? Allowing things to happen in their right timing, not being in a rush, or not having to have things, happen a certain way, being open to the flow, but also being ready, to move when it's time. It's almost like handling what you can and maximizing that, what you can, and then being ready when the door opens, and so that's where I am tonight, and it's uncomfortable, to say the least. It's uncomfortable. But that's where we are. That's where we are. And I've been given lots of thought, and definitely encouraged. I feel like if I have just so many ideas and so much energy, it's almost like today I felt like I just wanted to do everything. I wanted to plant some poppies, and I wanted to go and meditate by the water, and I wanted to come and make some, crafts at home, and I did a lot of that, not everything, but Some days you just feel like you just have so many different outlets to pour out. And even still, and yet it's being selective and not overdoing that. Because then you wear yourself out and you're tired and you don't have anything left for tomorrow, And so it's definitely using wisdom and being patient and kind of waiting for the right moment to do things and being led and being tapped in, with source. And so, nevertheless, it's challenging. The energy as it shifts is challenging. Sometimes not knowing is challenging. At least it is for me. It's challenging. And sometimes it gets so challenging that it becomes frustrating. It even becomes frustrating. But I've learned enough to know not to try to jump ship and go try to do things myself, because I already see the results of times where I did that and it didn't turn out well. And so that's enough to keep me patient. That's enough to keep me humble. That's enough to keep me open and listening for, direction. And so, yeah. I'm trying to see how we doing this macrame project. Okay. So that's all I wanted. I really, just wanted to come and have a discussion with you on the energy right now. I hope you guys are well. I hope you're well and staying balanced and loving on yourself and allowing yourself to be loved and be whole too. Allowing yourself to be loved and be whole. I've been giving lots of thought lately because I do have people that speak into my life. But, even with that, you have to be careful. And so you always, I've learned to check in with my higher self, check in with my spirit team to see if that information is aligning with what is aligned within me, because the work that we have done this far has been serious work, right? And it behooves us to check the energy, to check the information that we're getting, because we work so hard to get where we are. I know I have. I've worked really hard, to get where I am. And for someone to come along and throw a piece of, information that kind of shifts, the energy a different way, you want to make sure that that's where you're being directed, and not just throwing caution to the wind. Like, you want to know. Like I said, I'm somebody, I want to know. Listen, I have taken enough people by their word whose word wasn't worth the squat. And so I need to know that I know that I know that it aligns and it's aligning with, everything that's right. And so, I take a lot of energy and information in, but it's also being able to decipher and discern the information that we're taking in as well. Because we're responsible. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to blame nobody for sending you off the rock or on the wrong road. Like, you have to be able to take responsibility for yourself in that way. I've learned that as well. And so that's why I ask a lot of questions. I'm discerning. Listen, I'm listening, and trying to see if things line up. Like, we can't afford to be uninformed at this point in the game. Like, we need to know that we know and not just go off of someone else's word. And so, and anyone that is serious about, being authentic and helping, they won't mind you double checking. Matter of fact, they would tell you, like, check it out yourself. If you don't believe me, or if you just need to know, go and research it yourself. And you'll find out that what I'm saying is right? A person who is giving you good energy will let you know that they don't mind you going to check it, especially if they're giving you right information. And so, because I'm that person, like, I need to know. I have been sent, down the wrong roads too many times to not check, to not be, a fact checker, or, someone who is able to understand and discern what's being said and if it's actually right for me. Doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that the energy or the information being given is wrong, but does it align for you, is what I'm saying, is the question. Does it align for where you're being taken, or what you're being given, right, from God, or from your source, from your spirit team, right? Because there's so much out there, and many people are willing to help, right? But it's connecting to the right help that's going to align with your energy and where you are. That's what I found. And so, and then there's also such a thing as eating the meat and throwing away the bones. Maybe not all of it, right, that you would receive would be bad, but it's being able to take what you can use. Because I've had the opportunity to, like, meet some beautiful people, some wonderful people, some great people who are doing great things. Does it align with me? Not always. Some of it could, some of it may not, right? And it's being able to discern, what aligns and what doesn't. You don't have to eat everything, right? Sometimes you don't want to eat at other people's table. And sometimes you don't want to eat everything at the table. You can sit down and just kind of pick and, choose what is good for you. Maybe not everything there is going to be beneficial for where you're being led. Well, it's being able to discern that, because we're all called to do different things, and possibly in different ways as well. And so at the end of the day, we are all going to be responsible for our own decisions, our own walk, and we won't be able to blame anyone for leading us down the path that maybe wasn't for us. And so at the end of the day, it's checking in just to make sure that you are in alignment, that you're aligning. And all you got to do is ask, all you got to do is ask, is this for me? Right? It'll surface. It will come to fruition if you're looking for the answer, and then being open to receive that answer. If you're looking for truth, be open to see the truth and believe what you're seeing. And so Yeah, so that's where I am today. In a, hmm, it's one of those days. It's one of those days. It's been one of those weekends. It was rainy all weekend. I was very delighted today because it was muggy all day. And then at the end of the day, I had my door open and the sun just came out singing to me. And so that was all I needed to go a little bit further. That was all I needed. That was my sign that, yes, keep going. Keep going. Keep trusting. Keep waiting, right? Yes. And so I say that to you to be encouraged, be patient, right? Just keep doing the work on yourself while you're waiting, okay? And if you are able to move forward, like move forward. Keep doing the dang thing, right? That you have been given power to do it beautifully. And for those parts where you're waiting, be patient, but do what you can do while you're waiting. Keep working, and so, and then also learn from those around you. I'm an elder, but I also have elders too. There are lots of people that I can learn from that has more experience than me, that have more wisdom than me, and I'm open to that. And so utilize the resources around you as well. And the elders have information that we need, right? Don't go to somebody that have not lived, that hasn't experienced, right? It'd be like the blind leading the blind, but go to somebody that has some experience, that's lived, that's made some mistakes, that's had some tough experiences, some stories to tell. And so there's so much wisdom to be given with our elders, and that's where we need to be. That's who we need to be sitting down in front of, our elders. And even if you are an elder, you still have elders, right? And so, but still check that information though. See how it's aligning, with you. Use your discernment, learn to eat the meat and throw away the bone, even if all of it doesn't align or apply. Like, learn to take nuggets, right, in the dirt. Learn to find the gold nuggets in the dirt, and so there's just so many resources around us. There's no reason why we should be ignorant, as young folks or not. And so that is where we are today. And so I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you are finding time to love on yourself and take care of yourself and grow. Because time isn't forever. Even though time is an illusion, right? We will be transforming momentarily to the next phase of our existence, momentarily. And so our hope is that we get done what we've been given in this lifetime, okay? And so that's all I have today. And don't forget to pay it forward too, whether that's your kids, like, tell them. There's no reason why we can't sit down and be honest with our kids. 9 times out of 10, they don't want to hear it, but they need to hear it, right? Or it could just be someone that you met at the bus stop, or someone you met waiting at the doctor's office, right? And you feel the nudge to share something with them. Well, that's happening for a reason. You're being asked to pay it forward, right? All of the things that you have been afforded, there's someone who paid the price for that, right? And it wasn't just for you to sit on it and enjoy it, but it's to pay it forward. Information, you know, privileges. Some of us hold privileges that we need to open up doors for other people, or stand in the gap for someone else, or be a protective cover over someone else because of the power and the clout that you have. You can extend that to someone else. Pay it forward, right? However that is, pay it forward. I hear Spirit saying that tonight. And so with that, I'll end this here until our next little discussion. Whoever's meant to hear this, I believe, will stop on the page and, they'll be drawn in. And so my name's Letty. In case you don't know, if you're new here, welcome. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're not new and you're returning, how you doing? Hit the like button. You can share however you want. You can comment however you want to interact. If you just want to listen, that's fine too. Hopefully I said something that's valuable that helps you out today or another day, right? But that's what this is for. This is how I'm paying it forward today, right? And so you take care of yourself and make sure you love yourself and understand your worth and wait for what it is that's worthy of you, okay? Don't get impatient, but wait, okay? Wait. All right. Bye.